When Palworld first blew up, I talked about it quite a bit here on my second channel because it was a smash hit out of left field, and it was a game that I truly found very enjoyable right out of the gate, and it was a phenomenon for all the right reasons. And one of the reasons that I've been making YouTube videos for so long is because when I get really passionate about something, I want to talk about it, okay? And so Palworld, I had to make videos about that game. And so the other day when Nintendo finally did issue a lawsuit to Palworld, I knew that I just had to come on here and make a video and talk about this because, first of all, Nintendo is probably going to win. If you look at their track record and if you look at how many months they took to build this case, it's probably bulletproof. And look, I don't want them to win, okay? I think Nintendo wields their legal team like a weapon of mass destruction, and it is not good for the consumer. Obviously, it keeps them in a position of power in the gaming industry. I understand why they do what they do, and I understand that to an extent they have to do some of these things. This is not one of the things that they have to do, but today we're going to talk about why they're doing it. And I think part of it is kind of obvious, but the other part of it might not be super obvious if you've only played Palworld recently. Like, if you know of Pokemon, which you probably do, the Pokemon that you might know of probably came out a long time ago. And so we're going to touch on some of the more recent Pokemon games that have been released, and we're going to compare them to Palworld because I think that adding that context makes a big difference when we talk about this lawsuit and why this lawsuit is occurring. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about here is obviously Nintendo and Game Freak, or the Pokemon company, I don't remember exactly what it was, but they basically issued a patent lawsuit to Palworld indicating that it was not a copyright lawsuit, which originally a lot of people thought that there would be copyright infringement lawsuits flying when Palworld first came out. And that's because a lot of people said that the characters in Palworld were so similar to the Pokemon that we've known and loved for years, and it is shameless. And I'm going to be honest, it is shameless. The designs for pals in Palworld are shamelessly ripped off from Pokemon. It's obvious, you know it, I know it, everyone knows it, everyone calls them Pokemon. Like, if you need an example as to how we know it is a shameless ripoff, it's because people call the game Pokemon with guns, okay? So they literally use Pokemon as a way to describe what the game is like. So it is obvious that it is a shameless ripoff. However, Nintendo could not build a bulletproof lawsuit against Palworld on those grounds because the designs of the Pokemon, or sorry, I see that's what I mean, the designs of the pals were just different enough to where they weren't technically infringing on copyright. And like, sure, could they have brought them to court for that? I guess so, right? I guess so. But it's also worth noting, and one thing that a lot of people pointed out when Palworld first came out, I mean, this image went viral on Twitter, right? It's worth noting that Pokemon clearly was inspired by some of the monsters in Dragon Quest, right? Which predates it by 10 years. All right. So really, like, if Pokemon did go after them for copyright infringement, it could it possibly open itself up to copyright infringement from other IPs that it clearly stole ideas from, right? Like, maybe they don't want to go down that route. Okay, so I think that this image kind of is proof or evidence that the copyrights for the just the designs of the Pokemon only work if someone literally steals the design exactly, right? Like, you can't make a mobile game and put Pikachu in it if it is Pikachu as he exists or has ever existed in Pokemon, right? Like, you just cannot do that. Pikachu is a character, he is copyrighted, you cannot do that. But if you just change it slightly, well then you have Palworld, right? And they just couldn't sue them on grounds of copyright. So okay, so what are they actually suing them on? Well, they're suing them for a patent basically that Nintendo filed, and as far as we know, it seems like they actually haven't publicly revealed what the patent infringement was, and I think it was plural. Yes, it is plural. This is the official response from Palworld. They said, at this moment we're unaware of the specific patents, plural. Okay, so there were multiple patents allegedly in this lawsuit that Palworld, I guess, allegedly broke or infringed upon when they made Palworld. Okay, so we don't actually know, as far as I know, what these specific patents are. However, some people did do some digging and found what could be at least one of the patents that is going to be brought up in this lawsuit, and that is a patent for capturing monsters as a playable character in a virtual or cyberspace. Okay, now this patent was filed in the United States in 2021. Also, it was approved in Japan in 2023. So as far as we know, I don't know if this patent was like has fully gone through and is approved in the United States, but it does appear that it is the case that it has fully gone through in Japan. Okay, it is considered patent valid in Japan. Okay, so this is a thing, and unfortunately Pocket Pair, the company that made Palworld, is also in Japan, right? And so this lawsuit it's happening, and that's why I'm saying I don't think this is going to end well for Palworld. Okay, now I just gotta say really quick, I watched Asmongold. I've talked about Asmongold on the channel. I watched him make a video about this, and he thought that this patent was a bit silly because it's just capturing monsters, right? And like, if you break it down to its fundamental components, then sure, that is what it is, but that's not what the patent is. The patent is not about capturing monsters in a video game. That's not the patent. Okay, the patent is specifically for capturing fictional monsters using a ball in a digital space. And Asmongold's argument was that, like, well, you capture things with nets and stuff like that, like in the real world when we were cavemen. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but there's literally Pokeballs. Okay, if you've ever seen this show, they literally change size, and you can capture a Pokemon the size of a skyscraper in a little ball that fits this big. Okay, that does not exist anywhere in the real world. That is an actual unique and arguably creative idea that is fundamental to Pokemon specifically, right? I don't know of any other games that use balls to capture monsters that aren't direct ripoffs of Pokemon, right? Like, do we have an anime or a video game that predates Pokemon that captures monsters in balls in the exact same way as Pokemon? And it's also worth noting that, like, the Pokeball shakes a few different times and then it glows. Like, there are specific steps to how Pokeballs operate, and they work pretty much the same way in the games as they do in the anime, and they've functionally worked about the same for the whole, what, like 30 something years that Pokemon's been around or whatever. Okay, I can't believe it's that long. I'm so old. But like, the function of a Pokeball and how you would use a Pokeball to capture things in 3D space is very specific. Like, it is specifically something that Pokemon does. Okay, so let's not pretend like, oh, it's just capturing monsters. It's like, no, that is being intellectually dishonest. They are saying you're using a ball that expands and collapses and captures monsters vastly larger or smaller than said ball. You carry it on your hip, you have 6 Pokemon in your party. Like, there's a lot of steps to this that Palworld literally just copy and pasted. Okay, so let's not pretend like they're innocent here, and let me just be very clear for a second. Okay, you are not going to find a bigger Pokemon fan than me, and at this point it's a little bit embarrassing, and we're going to talk about that in a second here. But here we have all of the Pokemon games except for Black 2 and White 2 weren't very good, so I didn't complete that. But, well, I beat the games, but I just didn't buy it because, like, it's whatever, I'm never going to play it. But besides that, you have pretty much all the games. I don't have Stadium 1 and 2, and I sold my Coliseum a long time ago, and I greatly regret that. I even sold the Jirachi disc, which is like that was a big mistake. But besides that, you're going to see all the games here. I even have the Japanese version of Green. I also have an English version of Green, which is a ROM hack. But oh, look at this, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, complete in box, baby. I'm not going to take them out, but you get the point. Okay, you get the point. I'm not here as a Pokemon hater. I'm a Pokemon lover, and I'm also a Palworld lover. So all of that to say, analysts seem to think that Nintendo has a bulletproof lawsuit on their hands here. Their track record is very good. Their legal team is feared, and I mean, if you've been in the industry and you've watched videos like this, you know of Nintendo's legal team. Okay, if a child draws a Pikachu in a notebook, they're going to be knocking at their door later. Okay, so Nintendo's like legal team has a reputation, all right, and they're very good and they win a lot. And so, I mean, it's been months since the release of Palworld, and the entire time I bet Nintendo has been building a bulletproof case. So most likely Nintendo will win this. I think their patent, if they use this patent, I think it's GG. I mean, they clearly copy the catching mechanics. It is what it is. Like, let's just call it how it is. I love Palworld, but like, they literally they took it. Okay, they took it. They took the catching mechanics. And also, just to be clear, I saw some people tweeting that they were thinking that Nintendo actually filed this patent after the trailer reveal for Palworld in 2021 because they wanted to make sure that Palworld Palworld couldn't copy it. That is not true. The reason that Nintendo filed this patent was for Legends Arceus, which is somewhere in here. Horrible game, by the way. Would not recommend it at all. I thought it would be like Breath of the Wild. It wasn't. It was super watered down, loading screens, render distance was like 6 feet. Okay, not a good game, but this patent is clearly referencing Legends Arceus. This is how you catch Pokemon in Legends Arceus. I also don't think that the catching mechanics were fully shown in the original Palworld trailer anyway. So basically what happened is Palworld, I think their first trailer came out in June of 2021. Legends Arceus came out later that year, I think. Oh no, sorry, that's right, it was January of 2022. I remember now because it was a very weird release date. That's right. I can't believe it's been that long. It's been over 2 years. Wow. Anyway, Nintendo filed for that patent at the end of 2021. Legends Arceus comes out in 2022. We don't know if this has gone through and is valid in the United States, but it did become valid in 2023 in Japan. So that's the sort of timeline here. This patent filing has pretty much nothing to do with Palworld. It has everything to do with Legends Arceus and protecting Pokemon's mechanics from Legends Arceus, so that way other games can't steal it in the future. And it just so happened to be that Palworld would come out and use very similar mechanics to it. Okay, now was Palworld in development prior to the request for this being a patent? Probably, but maybe that's something that they'll use in court, who knows. But that doesn't really get around the fact that this is a valid patent in Japan in 2023, and it's Nintendo's patent. All right, and Palworld uses pretty much the exact same catching mechanics, or at least it's close enough to where it's like everyone knows that, right? Now all of that to say, here's the truth, right? Here's the truth about this lawsuit and why this is happening right now. The truth is that if Palworld wasn't so successful, this lawsuit probably would not exist. And that's because they see Palworld as an actual competitor to their games, and that's because Palworld is actually a good game, something that Nintendo has not released, or I should say Game Freak and the Pokemon Company have not released in many years. Okay, Pokemon Sword and Shield I thought was okay. I beat Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'd say it's like a 7 out of 10. It was fine. Yes, there were some weird texture things in the wild area. Yeah, sure, whatever, I get it, but fundamentally it was fine. Okay, it was fine. But these games, and especially Scarlet and Violet, are the worst games that Pokemon have ever released, and it's not even close. These aren't just bad Pokemon games, they're just functionally and technically bad video games. Like, they actually function horribly, and they've been out for almost 2 years now, I think. Yeah, this piece of shit came out at the end of 2022. Okay, and I'm not saying that as a Pokemon hater. I'm not a Pokemon hater. I love Pokemon. It is my favorite franchise by far, but this is objectively trash. And you know what? It took me over a year to beat this game, and you want to know why? Because I played this on launch day. I was stoked. It's not often we get a new Pokemon game, and I love Pokemon. I've got the proof, the sources right here. Okay, I love Pokemon. I was excited for Scarlet and Violet because I thought open world Pokemon game, they're going to expound on what they learned from Sword and Shield. It's going to be great. It's going to be the first like Pokemon game that feels like an open world experience, and it's on the Switch, and it's what we've been always wanting as kids, and it's open world, whatever. Okay, I was stoked. The game comes out, and it is so bad from a technical perspective. The frame rate is garbage. There's massive memory leak issues. The render distance is trash. The textures are trash. The collision is trash. The game technically just, and this is again not even my opinion, it actually ran like shit. Nobody will argue with you with that. Okay, it played like shit. That being said, I played the game for probably, I don't know, a dozen or so hours, maybe, yeah, a dozen hours, and I said, you know what, I gotta stop. I can't do this. Like, it's just so bad. Like, the game is just so bad, I cannot do it. I waited over a year, and I beat this game. I beat Pokemon Scarlet this year in 2024 for the first time, and the reason was because I thought, okay, I'm gonna wait a few months. I'm gonna come back and see if they released a patch. A few months went by. I looked, a few patches came out, nothing changed. The first DLC dropped, I checked in on the game, nothing really changed. Second DLC drops, and I say, okay, well, I mean, like, they announced the Switch 2. The Switch 2 is coming, and so, like, this is it. This is the final product. They literally didn't fix it. They just didn't fix it. I don't know. I waited so long thinking like, surely surely they have to fix it. It is technically garbage. They sold us technical trash. Okay, surely they have to fix it. It's Nintendo, it's a big company, no one's gonna stand for this, and yet they didn't fix it. So I said, okay, I'm going to suffer through this game just so that way I can say I beat it, so that way when I make a video like this talking about Scarlet and Violet, I can say that I 100% completed the entire game, and I still stand by that this is by far the worst Pokemon games we've ever seen. They barely, I mean, it is embarrassing. As a matter of fact, it is actually embarrassing that the Pokemon company released this, put their name on it, stood by it to this day, never fixed a lot of the big issues with the game. It is actually embarrassing. These games are garbage, and the saddest part about this is that some of the story in this game is actually kind of good. When you get to the, you know, area 0 and you find out all about Arvin or whatever his name is, his mom and the professor and all that stuff, I'm not gonna ruin it because it's a good story. If you haven't played it yet, go ahead and play it, okay? Or just look it up on YouTube and don't give them any of your money for this trash, okay? Watch a playthrough, save money. It's really not worth it. I'm serious. Like, I'm not being hyperbolic. It's actually not worth buying. Just watch someone play it on YouTube. But anyway, the story, some of the story was actually good. Okay, it was actually good. I can't argue that some of the story was good, but literally everything else was actual garbage. They literally released trash. The game is trash, not good, objectively bad, horrible game, hated it. It was just bad. All in all, start to finish, bad game. Okay, bad game. And that's why we actually see this lawsuit coming through, because Pokemon sees an actual competitor in the market and they say, wait a minute, Palworld came out after Scarlet and Violet, it is making waves, it is getting praise, everyone loves it, okay? And that's because the game was good. And the game, sure, it had some technical issues, it was janky, whatever, it came out, it was a beta, whatever, that's totally fine, but it didn't have horrible render distance issues like Scarlet and Violet. It didn't have horrible frame rate issues like Scarlet and Violet. And yeah, some of the things were janky, sure, but like, it's a much smaller studio, and it was kind of an under promise over deliver type of thing. Like, people thought, oh, it's just Pokemon with guns, but it's like, no, it's actually much more than that. And the game, this is the most crucial part, the game was fun. Okay, the game was fun. And so it comes out, and as of February of 2024, it sold a combined 25 million units on PC gaming platform Steam and Xbox. Now this is February. We are now in September. This number is much higher now, most likely, although the hype did die down, and Pokemon Legends Arceus sold 14.83 million copies. So more people paid money for Palworld than they did for Legends Arceus. Now, Legends Arceus, I think, was a $60 game, and Palworld was 30, something like that. So I mean, I think Legends Arceus still made more money, but the point is, more people looked at Palworld and said, yes, I will pay for that. Yes, I'll pay less, but I will pay for it. And more people played Palworld than Legends Arceus, okay, which is the game that we're referencing when we're talking about this patent. And so what happened here is a competitor came onto the market, sold more copies than one of Nintendo's actual games, and it's because Palworld was just better. In fact, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet combined as of March 2024 have sold 25 million units. So if we're talking about units moved, they're neck and neck. They're actually tied. This is the flagship most recent release for Pokemon, and Palworld came out and sold just as many. Again, it's half the price, but you've got just as many people playing it. And unlike Scarlet and Violet, people actually liked Palworld. Scarlet and Violet was a dumpster fire, actual trash. Palworld was, you could argue, maybe a smaller dumpster fire, but it was at least actually fun. It was unique, it was funny, there was character there, they had machine guns on monkeys. It's like, it's crazy, right? The game came out, people loved it, it was great. Did it have problems? Sure, it had problems, but the real reason that Nintendo filed this lawsuit is because it feels threatened, and it's not just because Palworld was good, it's because what Nintendo's been putting out is garbage. It's garbage, Nintendo. And so what you've done is dug your own grave. You have put yourself in this position to have a competitor come on the market and kick your teeth in, and you deserve it. You deserve it because you've been selling us rehashed slop for years. The last good Pokemon game was what, Sun and Moon? Like, and I'm saying good, like Sword and Shield was fine, I like Sword and Shield, but if I were to say a good Pokemon, Sun and Moon I thought were good Pokemon games, okay? And I played through and beat Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon 2. Those came out in November of 2017, so I was like 23 24 when these games came out, okay? So you can't even make the argument that like, oh well, of course you think they're good because you were younger back then and you're looking at it through nostalgia, but like no, I was an adult, okay? It's not that. I just thought they were actually good games. Now am I gonna sit here and say Sun and Moon were the best in the franchise? No, I'm not, okay? I'm not gonna say that, but I thought like the concepts were cool, the environment was cool, the Pokemon designs were cool, I liked it. I thought Z moves were fine, not as good as Megas, but they're fine. Certainly better than terastallizing. That's a joke. That is actually like, it makes the Pokemon look so ugly, it is unbearable to look at. Like I don't even want to do it when I'm playing the game. I'm like, I don't want to terastallize because it makes my Pokemon look stupid. And Gigantamaxing is like, I mean, it's okay, but it's kind of stupid. It's not Megas. Just do Megas, bro. You figured it out already. People love Megas. Just do Megas again. Like, what are we doing? Why are we wasting time on more gimmicks? You figured out a cool gimmick. Just keep doing the cool gimmick. Don't make up shit ones, okay? But my point is, it's been 7 years since Pokemon released a good Pokemon game, at least in my opinion. You could make the argument that some of these other ones are good. If you want, you can. I mean, I won't agree with you, but you could make that argument, okay? 7 years since you've made a good Pokemon game, and with the way and with the speed that the industry is moving these days, they really thought that a competitor wouldn't come on the scene and blow them out of the water. What? Why would you think that? Why? Because you have a bulletproof legal team? And look, maybe that'll be the case, and I do think they probably will win this lawsuit, or at least they'll settle out of court, and they'll probably have to, you know, I mean, Pocket Pair I think has released Palworld with the support of Microsoft, so they might have to, you know, line Nintendo's pockets and change some of the mechanics in Palworld. That's probably what I think will happen, which is super annoying. But you know, this is all Nintendo's fault. It really is. They really need to look in the mirror and say, you know what, we deserve this, because you took such a beloved franchise and you've bastardized it for years now. But some people would argue a decade, okay? If you don't like Sun and Moon, which some people didn't because there weren't gyms and things like that, you could at least say that Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire were great games because they were remakes, and X and Y were decent, okay? So like, how many years? When did X and Y come out? 2013? Yeah, October 2013. So over a decade since you've put out anything of like actual quality, even though I would argue Sun and Moon were like decent quality, okay? You deserve this, Nintendo. You deserve Palworld to do better than you. You just do. It's just a better game, and that's one of the problems that I think Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have completely lost sight of, or one of the, not one of the problems, but one of the things that they've lost sight of and is a problem for them, is that they have lost sight of the fact that your games have to be fun. That is like where your game, it lives and dies on whether or not your game is fun. Now in the case of Scarlet and Violet, you can't go in buildings in these games. You cannot. The only buildings you can go into are the gym buildings, the home buildings, and some of the buildings in Area Zero, like the labs and things like that, and everything else. All the other shops are menus. You walk through the door and it brings you a black screen with a menu. You don't go in the shop. You don't go into the shop to buy items. It's a menu. You've replaced with a menu. You don't even go to the Pokemon Center. The Pokemon Center is functionally a table outside. Okay, so you didn't even put buildings in your game. You're outside the whole game, and the problem is that the outside sucks because you didn't do it good. You did it shit, and that's because the Switch sucks, because the Switch is like a decade old as well. It's not actually a decade old, but it's using decade old technology. So like, what did you expect? Okay, the problem is that Nintendo is using old hardware, and the Pokemon Company and Game Freak don't have enough people to make a game that belongs on the shelf of the most profitable franchise in the world. Pokemon is, last time I checked, the most profitable franchise in the world. Maybe that has been overthrown by one of the Disney properties or something, although Disney's not doing so hot these days. But as far as I know, Pokemon still the most profitable franchise in the world, and when you have that title, you probably should put some weight behind those games. You should probably start releasing good games, because otherwise Palworld's gonna come around and people are gonna be like, oh my god, look how easy it was to make a good game, Nintendo. Look how easy it was. It was done by a small studio in Japan that just said, hey, let's make Pokemon with guns and make it open world crafting survival type and stuff, and that's it. It was easy. And you know what? People have been telling you that for years now. People have literally described to you what they want in an open world game, and you didn't do it forever, and the one time that you did it so bad. You did it so bad. It's not even like, it's exhausting how bad it is. Okay, and don't even get me started on Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Those are unplayable for similar reasons. I used my Pro controller and there's input delay. How? It's a top down like 2D. How is there input delay, bro? Like, dude, oh my god. Don't ever outsource a remake ever again. I hope you learned your lesson. That's embarrassing. You are known, Pokemon is known for some of the best remakes in gaming history. Okay, we're talking about Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Fire Red, and Leaf Green. Are you kidding me? Alpha Sapphire, Omega Ruby. Are you serious? These are some of the best remakes in all of gaming. Okay, and then you outsource Diamond and Pearl and they release a literal carbon copy with the most boring graphical upgrade ever, and it's super slow, and you just didn't add any of the cool things from Platinum. Like, what are you doing, bro? Oh my god. So not only is the remake horrible, but there's input lag for the Pro controller D-pad, brother. Like, are you kidding me, bro? I can't do this. I can't do this. Like, Nintendo, you're fumbling, you're shooting yourself in the head and then blaming Palworld. That's what you're doing. That's actually what is happening, and that's what happened when Palworld came out, and that is what this lawsuit is actually all about. So will Nintendo win? Probably, or they'll settle or something like that, and it'll be a lot of money, and it's really going to probably hurt Palworld quite a bit. Hopefully Microsoft will recognize the genius behind Palworld, or at least that the fans love Palworld, and they'll step in to help them. The truth is, however, here's the thing: as much as I love Palworld, I think it's kind of over, if I'm being honest with you guys. Like, I think the hype is gone, and I personally, like, they released a pretty big update after the hype cycle, and I didn't really come back. I just was like, I'm kind of done with that, right? So I don't know, is Palworld valuable as an IP? I don't think so, unless they release like a story mode, like a campaign, and like this other, you know, crazy stuff. I don't know, and maybe they have plans to do that, and you know, they've proven that they're decent developers, I think. So I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, Nintendo, you've done this to yourself. You've shot yourself in the foot and blamed Palworld, and your legal team will probably get another victory here, and it's going to be bad for the gaming industry, and it's going to be bad for the consumer. And then you're going to release the Switch 2, and it's going to be lukewarm hardware most likely, and you're going to keep releasing slop until you've successfully killed the most successful franchise in the world. That's what's going to happen here, unless Nintendo wakes up and says, you know what, maybe we shouldn't continue to lead the industry on our legal team alone. Maybe we should actually start getting back to what we were good at originally, was just making good games. That's what you're in the business for. Just please do everyone a solid. Just do what, this is what we want. We just want a good Pokemon game, and you didn't give it to us for so long that we were forced to do this with Pokemon with machine guns, and it's cool. And why didn't you do something cool? Like, I'm not saying Pokemon should have guns, but like, just do something cool, man. Make a good game. It's that simple. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, subscribe if you want more like this, comment down below. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.